Hey, good morning, everybody. So I'm sitting here on my computer and I'm looking at real data from the Pocono Mountains short-term rental market right now. And I want to show you something because if you own a home here in the Poconos and you're thinking about selling, what I have to share with you just might change the conversation. All right. So here's the thing that most sellers in the Poconos don't know. And honestly, I'm going to be honest here, most agents aren't telling them either because they don't know it or they just don't tell them. When you go to sell your home, there are two types of buyers who might make you an offer. You've got your traditional buyer, someone who wants a primary residence, a first-time buyer, a moving up buyer, a weekend retreater, and then you have your investors, someone who's running numbers, who already knows what your house can produce as a short-term rental before they ever step foot inside of your house. And those two buyers, they're looking at your house with completely different lenses. The investor isn't just looking at the square footage or the kitchen renovation that you did 3 years ago. They're looking at yield, revenue, occupancy rate, and daily rate potential. So, if you're a seller and you don't know those numbers for your own home, you're walking into that negotiation blind. Blind. And that matters a lot. All right, let me just show you what the market looks like right now because the data is actually very telling. The Pocono Mountains short-term rental right now has a market score of 79 out of 100. That's a strong market. That's a market that does well on rental demand, on revenue growth, and investability. Annual revenue for an active short-term rental listing in this market is averaging $53,000. And that number is up 6.9% from last year. So yes, revenue is growing. But here's the part that should really grab your attention if you're a seller. Total active listings are down 3.6% from this time last year. There are fewer properties on the market competing for that short-term rental demand right now. Less supply, growing revenue, strong investor appetite. That's a seller's environment. If you own a home in this market, and especially if it's in a township that allows short-term rentals, you are sitting on something that a very motivated buyer pool wants. Okay, so I want to be very specific here because I think this will land differently when you see the actual numbers. I'm looking at 2 active listings in Monroe County right now. And I want to walk you through what an investor sees when they pull up the property. So let's take this 5-bedroom, 6-bath home at 2847 square feet, and it's listed at $349,000. An investor looking at this property is seeing a projected yield of 57%, annual revenue potential of $200,000. And that particular property has a daily rate of $1,300 a night. Occupancy is 44%. So on a sidebar, if you want to see this listing, I got you. Moving on. Let's sit with that for a minute. That's a $350,000 asset producing over $200,000 in annual revenue. And that's the kind of math that an investor is running before they even make an offer. Now let's look at a second property. It's smaller. 2-bedroom, 1-bath home, 1,300 square feet, listed at $125,000 with a yield of 51.3% and an annual revenue of $65,000. Occupancy on that one is at 53%, which is higher than the occupancy of the last house we just spoke about. The daily rate of this particular house is $334 a night. It's a smaller but more affordable home, and it's still producing over $64,000 a year. For an investor, that's a clean, manageable asset with strong occupancy numbers. And here's why this matters for you as a seller. If you own a property in a short-term rental eligible zone in Monroe County right now, you're not just selling a house. You're selling a producing income asset, and you should be pricing it and marketing it as such. Most sellers don't know this. Most agents don't market this way. And there's a gap. That's money being left on the table. So what does this actually mean if you're thinking about selling? First, you need to know the short-term rental status of your specific property before you even list it. Not the county, not the township, not the neighborhood. Your specific parcel, your specific HOA covenants if you're in a community. Because, and I say this a lot, two houses on the same road can have completely different values based on whether investors can legally operate a short-term rental there. Monroe County is one of the most active short-term rental markets in the Pocono region. It's also one of the most regulated, and township rules are shifting right now. So, for example, Barrett Township, it's reviewing its ordinances now in 2026, specifically to encourage economic development, and that type of review affects property values in real time. Second, the spring market, it's wide open. Mortgage rates are currently sitting around 6.2%, and that affects traditional buyers more than cash investors. We know this. Motivated buyers who've been watching the market all winter long are making offers right now. So if you wait until the summer to list, you're not going to list in a slower market. You're just going to list when everyone else is deciding to list. So there will be more competition, less leverage for you. The window to get in front of serious buyers, including investors who are actively running short-term rental numbers on Pocono properties right now, that window is wide open. March through May is historically when you want to be in the market. So look, I think I've been nothing but straight with you. I specialize in the Pocono Mountains. I work this mountain full time. And one of the things I do before I ever sit down with a seller is run the short-term rental revenue analysis on their property. So they know exactly what they're bringing to the market and who's going to come for it. Because a seller who understands what their home is worth to an investor negotiates completely differently. They price it correctly, they market it to the correct buyer, and they don't leave money on the table because they didn't know their own numbers. All right, I'm on a tangent. But if you own a home here in Monroe County or anywhere in the Pocono Mountains and you've been thinking about selling, I want to have that conversation with you. The link to connect with me is in the description. I do no obligation consultations where I walk you through exactly what your property would look like through an investor's lens, what the revenue potential is, and what the yield would look like. What this means for your asking price and your negotiating position. That's the conversation that most sellers never get to have with their agents. Subscribe, drop your questions in the comments, and let's talk.